life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days.
Hey guys, Keith Engle for Let's Talk New York Sports right here in Let's Talk New York. Let's Talk Sports Network. Good grief, trouble talking as usual. Usually I'm joined by Dan Harris, as you know, who's the leader of the pack here, but Dan is still not with us. Still, battling valiantly the things he's battling, but we wish Dan well. He's still doing a lot of work behind the scenes, as you can see if you follow Let's Talk Sports. So let's wish Dan well. Reach out to him if you could. Send him a quick note. I'm sure he'd be happy to hear from a lot of the followers. There are a great many followers here on Let's Talk Sports. And I'm happy to fill in instead of co-hosting, doing the hosting here on Let's Talk New York Sports. And guys, feel free to bring up any topics you want. We'll talk we'll certainly talk Giants with a big playoff game coming up this weekend at the Eagles, where they've had some trouble. We'll certainly talk a little bit about the Jets, search for an offensive coordinator, a little bit of Yankee and Met news. We'll jump into the Knicks and the Nets a little, and some college basketball, local style. It's a nice day here. We're in upstate New York. Dan is in the UK. Not sure what the weather is where he is, but we're here in upstate New York, and it's another dreary day. 3 weeks, and I think we've had about 12 hours of sunshine in 3 weeks. We've had snow and rain. It's freezing rain and sleet and everything you can think of today since yesterday. And it is what it is. It's the end of January here. 19 days till vacation. Woohoo! Being a Caribbean. We'll see what we'll do with this show. On that time frame, maybe I'll pop in and do 20 minutes or something. We'll see how it goes. In any event, we welcome you and people on Facebook and YouTube, Twitter, both on Let's Talk Sports, New York and Northeast Streaming Sports as well. You guys all get this show. We're happy to take any comments or topics you want to talk about involving New York sports. And a little bit of New England, by the way. Patriots searching for a new offensive coordinator. Lots of stuff going on there. A lot of teams. It's like 9 or 10 teams searching for coordinators. We'll dive into some of that as we go forward. Anyway, shall we jump right in? The New York Giants. What a nice win last week. Good, I'm going to tell you, I had a conversation this morning with the Mad New Yorker who just cannot get it through his head. And I know a lot of you Giant fans are the same way, and I apologize to those who are not. But you guys who are not believers in Daniel Jones, I hate the Giants. You know this. I do this show called New York Sports. Let's Talk New York Sports. So it's a lot that I hate the Giants, but I do follow them very closely. I follow as a Patriot fan and just a sports fan doing my own podcast. I certainly follow all the sports and certainly the New York sports because I'm here. I don't like the Giants, but I'm the guy who's defending Daniel Jones right and left to Giant fans for the last 2 years. You watch my vlog today. It'll air at 6. Hope you guys are hearing me. Let me know if you're not. It'll air at 6 tonight on all these same outlets. Daniel Jones' progress has been remarkable. Daniel Jones, and this isn't based off his performance, tremendous performance against the Vikings last week. Not in any way, shape, or form. It's just based on his growth over 4 years, and I've been saying it for the last 3. This kid didn't pick himself to be draft 6, right? Give him a break. You guys would be so happy if he'd been a second-round draft pick. But he's coming into his own. He's a winning quarterback in the NFL. He's got his team in the playoffs. He's going to be the Giant quarterback for a while, so get ready for it. If you don't like him, I'm not sure what your problem is. Oh, there's Carlos now. Welcome, Carlos. I'm not just talking to you. Watch my vlog tonight because I go into it a lot more vitriol. Daniel Jones is your quarterback. You're not getting rid of Daniel Jones. You're not getting rid of Saquon Barkley. You got the foundation of a really good team. You're not getting rid of these guys. You're signing them both. You've got a coaching staff that finally gets it. Be happy. You're going to have a chance to beat the Eagles this weekend. You may not do it. I think you'll give them a game. Philadelphia's been a house of horrors, really, for the Patriots through the years. But for the Patriots, oh my God, I got my mind all over the place today. For the Giants, but let's just take a look at what they did last week. They played well. I really thought you'd see a heavier dose of Saquon Barkley running the football, but it was really Daniel Jones. 17 carries. A lot of those were designed plays. Also threw for 301 yards. 2 touchdowns. No turnovers, guys. The key stat, no turnovers. Got the ball to Barkley. Barkley carried the ball only 9 times for 53 yards, but he had 2 touchdowns. The most important part of that. 5 catches. Daniel Jones also found a new target. 8 catches and for 105 yards and a touchdown for Isaiah Hodgins. Maybe he's got himself a target. Maybe it's a one-day wonder. We'll find out. That's very important, Danny. The team doesn't need to get rid of Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. They need to get some skill guys to go around them. They need to get better offensive linemen to protect them and open holes. So the Giants with a very, I think, impressive victory last week. Their defense played well enough to win. Listen, this wasn't a loss. I thought Kirk Cousins would not play well. Kirk Cousins played fine here. But Daniel Jones played better. They both had a passer rating over 110. They both played well. TJ Hawkinson played really well. Probably his best game as a Viking. We talked about tight ends this morning. Looks like Dan with us now. Based on expectations, you can argue that and good evening, or good, I guess it's good evening for you, Dan. Based on expectations, you can argue that the quarterback, that I would say absolutely Daniel Jones has exceeded expectations this year. Again, I went through this on my vlog, and he's gotten better every single year. And that's without having a representative coaching staff to help him grow until this year. The Giants could have signed him early before the season and certainly saved themselves some money. But this was I don't have a problem with them doing that, not doing that. They needed to find out if he was going to be their guy. It's a new coaching staff. I get it. Now they found out. He's going to be your quarterback. And watch the vlog because, again, I came up with him as the 7th best quarterback in the NFL right now. There's only 6 guys, and a couple of those were iffy for me that I would take over Daniel Jones. So watch the vlog tonight. You'll see it on Let's Talk Sports. You'll see it on Northeast Streaming Sports. You'll see it on my page as well. It'll be all over. And we'll share it to all the Giant groups later on after it airs. And I don't want to group all you Giant fans together. I know all Giant fans don't dislike Daniel Jones. He was a beast last week, Dan. He played great. Hope you're doing well today, Dan, too. I mentioned Dan at the top, as you guys know. Dan's usually the showrunner here, and I'm just kind of the co-pilot. What a mixed metaphor that is. But Dan's recovering from some setbacks, and we wish him well. So reach out to Dan and give him the thumbs up. Good man, and we wish him well. So going forward, the Giants get the Eagles. Daniel Jones didn't play great. He's mediocre, I guess you could say, against the Eagles this past season. The one game he played, he didn't play the last game of the season. I think in the first game he was maybe 18 to 27, 180 yards, whatever. Touchdown, ran for 26. Not his best game. Don't forget, this guy ran for 700 plus yards this year and double-digit touchdowns. The Eagles have looked for much of the year, maybe not the end of the year, and Jalen Hurts, we don't know exactly how healthy he is. They look like the best team in the NFC, at least. I do believe that to be the 49ers now. We got here. It's an internal struggle financially. It's about money. They figure out money. There are people that figure these things out, Carlos. You know, you don't think the Patriots for 20 years went through these types of problems? They managed to keep their franchise quarterback through all of it until the end. And it wasn't about money when they let him go. It was about him wanting to leave. They made tough decisions on guys, but not the number one guy. And they never had a Saquon Barkley. Every team has their cap guys, and I promise you that the Giants GM has got his cap guy. And they will find ways to get this done. There's a lot of creative ways to do these things. Daniel Jones doesn't have to take all his money in salary. This will get done. There's zero chance Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley are not part of this team next year. Maybe I'll give you a 10% chance Barkley's not. Daniel Jones is a quarterback. And anybody who doesn't want him as your quarterback, you're crazy. Carlos, the Mad New Yorker, I'm not sure what that Tiki Bark, I'm not sure what this has to do with it, what we're talking about. They didn't let him walk. They paid him. I said the Patriots through 20 years managed to keep their franchise quarterback, regardless of the cap. They found creative ways to get through, and every team finds creative ways to work the cap when they need to. Doesn't mean you have to make tough cuts somewhere. It'll happen somewhere else. It won't happen at the quarterback or the running back position. Maybe a 10% chance. I'm not sure how Tiki Barber comes into this conversation. It was a different cap regulations at that point in time. And Carlos wishes Dan his best, obviously. Hello, Augustin. How are you? Good to have you with us today. We're talking to Giants right now. Forgot where I was. Yeah, they'll find ways to get this done. They need to find ways to get the offensive line better, and they need to find ways to get some weapons for Daniel Jones. Is there an internal struggle financially? Sure. You figure it out. That's the NFL today. And if you don't have a guy for that, then shame on you. That's all I got. That's all I got on that. So again, this week's matchup, the Eagles look like a great team early. I think they came back to the pack a little bit. They had some injuries. Certainly a really good offense, a really good defense. Their head coach has got some, I think he's got some coaching chops. I just don't think that they're the team that we thought they might have been early in the year. Now, I'm not saying they won't win this weekend. If you force me to pick a winner, I probably would pick the Eagles to win this game. I'm betting the Giants plus 7.5, 8, whatever it is. Hopefully it doesn't fall to 7. I don't want to see that number get below 7.5. Because I think that game will fall between, 1 and 7. But the Giants have a puncher's chance here. If Daniel Jones is given some time, I doubt the Eagles are going to let him run wild like the Vikings did. Do I think the Eagles have a better defense than the Vikings? I do. Do I think they have a better offense overall? Not necessarily. I'm not going to fault Kirk Cousins, so I can't say Jalen Hurts will be better than Kirk Cousins was last week. The Vikings offense played well enough to win. Their defense did not. So if the Giants play like they did last week, offensively and defensively, mistake-free football pretty much, they will have a chance to win this game. And Philly, New York, it's a great story. I mean, they've had some great games between them in football. In all the sports, they've had great battles. Mets and Philadelphia has been a rivalry for a long, long time. Fun rivalry this weekend. Looking forward to all these games. And by the way, I'm not the only guy now endorsing Daniel Jones. Eli Manning, who I think, to be honest with you, again, as a non-Giant fan, looking at it from the outside, I think Daniel Jones has a chance to be better than Eli Manning. Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls, but he was pedestrian in a lot of years, guys. A lot of picks. Eli Manning was one tough quarterback, but far from the best. But Eli Manning is endorsing Daniel Jones. Justin Tuck has spoke out and said Daniel Jones is the guy. Bring him in, sign him. Who else? Asi Umenyiora. Big names in recent Giant history, all names I'm not crazy about because they had a very negative effect on my team. But get excited, Giant fans. I know you're excited, Giant fans. I know you're excited. Don't be looking for reasons to blame Daniel Jones if you should lose this game this week. Daniel Jones is, in Saquon Barkley, don't get me wrong, is one of the 2 biggest reasons you are here. 3 biggest reasons. Your defense has played reasonably well all year. This isn't the Giant defense from when they were winning Super Bowls. Don't be fooled. It has made some great progress and it has some great potential. But this isn't, the classic Giants defense. It might be. And a lot of times defenses get better as we go forward. But they're third. It's Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones in the defense. Give Saquon Barkley credit. Come back from that injury, he's done very well. I said last year, you can look back at the tapes from this very show. And I said to Dan Harris, Saquon Barkley will be a much better player next year, meaning this year, than he was at that point in time, because sometimes it takes a season plus to overcome the type of injury he had, not just physically, but mentally. And you saw it in training camp. So this is not me jumping on the bandwagon here. I said this, and I've been talking up Daniel Jones for 2 seasons before this. The kid had talent and potential. He just needed some direction. He's got direction. He's got a good head coach. Good job by the Giants. Brian Daboll gets my vote for Coach of the Year. I know the votes are already in. Brian Daboll gets my vote. Let's move on to the Jets. The Jets dreamers, and I said this on Tanner D's show last night on Let's Talk Sports. He asked me, Carlos, I don't know if you saw the show. I'll get to your comment in a second. But he asked me for my most outrageous Mad New Yorker take, and I said Lamar Jackson will be the quarterback of the of the Jets next year. Maybe it's not that outrageous. I got thinking about it. Maybe it's not that outrageous. Jets need help at quarterback. They're looking for an offensive coordinator. They brought in Nathaniel Hackett, recently fired Broncos coach. Now, Nathaniel Hackett, to his credit, was a very good offensive coordinator, albeit with the Packers, where he had a ton of weapons and a quarterback. Here he doesn't have a quarterback. This team's got to find a quarterback and an offensive coordinator that can coexist. I mean, if Robert Saleh, who I think has grown as a head coach, again, remember, I'm no New York Jet fan. Keep your eye on the hat behind me. Robert Saleh has grown as a coach. If he made one mistake, and Dan and I talked about it here, he should have hired a very experienced offensive coordinator for his first hire. He's a defensive guy. I think a rookie defensive coach should hire a really experienced offensive coordinator. I think a rookie offensive minded coach like Brian Daboll should hire a very experienced defensive coordinator, which he did with Wink Martindale. And I think you'll see Saleh fix that mistake. Now, whether it'll be Nathaniel Hackett still remains to be seen. There was a lot of talk about Todd Monken, but that talk seems to have dissipated here in the last 10 days or so. There's been no talk of a interview that I'm aware of, and we'll see what happens there. And then you got to fix the quarterback issue. Who's going to be the quarterback? The Post has got odds. Well, I guess you go to DraftKings. I think this might be a DraftKings. No, I guess it's on PointsBet Sportsbook. The odds to be quarterback of the Jets next year. The favorite, Derek Carr, plus 275. Jimmy Garoppolo, plus 375. I can see Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm no Derek Carr fan. If I'm the Jets, I'm bringing Jimmy G. I'm not a big fan of Jimmy G either, but I think for this offense and a guy to just take care of the football, Jimmy G might be this guy. Keep Mike White around. Maybe you bring him in and let him compete with Jimmy G or somebody like that. Lamar Jackson, not going to happen. They're going to want a king's ransom. Aaron Rodgers, how'd it work out with Brett Favre, guys? You're looking at the same type of thing. Zach Wilson, 900, plus 900. Bryce Young, they're not going to draft another quarterback in the first round, and they're not going to be drafted early enough to get Bryce Young, I don't think. Or C.J. Stroud. Or Will Levis. These are the three college guys in this. And then on the outside, far outside, plus 2,200, Tom Brady. Not happening. What we got here? Wow. You know, I'm not saying that's first of all, the value proposition is not equal. Because, and I disagree 100%, you do not win Super Bowls without a talented leader at quarterback. We've had this conversation forever. If you've got a talented defensive squad, listen, Bill Belichick went without defensive coordinators for years. He doesn't have a defensive coordinator now. There were years they won the Super Bowl without defensive or offensive coordinators. So it can be done. If you think you can win by keeping Wink Martindale and bringing in, I don't know, who's your quarterback? Tyrod Taylor? Derek Carr? Jimmy G? You're not winning Super Bowls. That's your goal, correct? Carlos, you have a one-track mind, man, and Saquon is not the leader. Saquon is not the leader of this team. Saquon's the best player on this team. They're not equal. Those two things are not the same thing. He's a leader. If your quarterback's not a leader, you're going nowhere. We've had this conversation 100 times. You'll never get it, Carlos. For whatever reason, I don't know. That's to take nothing away from Saquon Barkley. Got me all tongue-tied. He was sure. And Danny Dimes did nothing during that time. I hate that name, by the way. What a stupid nickname. I'm not big on nicknames anyway. So Daniel Jones did nothing in those 7 games. And how about the games that he brought him back to win 4 or 5 times? And just because he carried them statistically does not make him necessarily the leader of the team. Glad to see you're so excited. I don't know whether you're a Jet fan, Giant fan, Titan fan, Buffalo. I know you're not a Buffalo fan. The only team that does play in New York. I love it, by the way, when Jet fans or Giant fans get on me because I root for a team in New England. Not Boston, by the way. Let's be clear. Patriots don't play in Boston. They're not a Boston team. Foxborough's 30 miles away. But at least my team play, well, my team doesn't have a state. They're the New England states. But don't get on me for not rooting a team in New York when none of you root for a team in New York either. Because I'm pretty sure New Jersey is in New York. No matter how I don't care if it's across a bridge or across the street. So if you're not a Giant, and again, Carlos, I don't know whether you're a Giant fan anymore, a Jet fan. I think you're more a Jet fan than you are a Giant fan. And you might be more of a Titan fan for all I know. Oh, gosh. Both these teams, listen, even the Jets made good progress this year. The only place they didn't progress was at quarterback, which is the most important position, which is why they were 7-10 and not 10 wins like the Giants. They improved offensively, wide receiver, the skill position players, all very good. Breece Hall, got the right Hall, I hope. When he's healthy, is a very dynamic player. They probably got a running back for the future, and hopefully, they got some depth. They'll get some depth there where they can withstand some injuries, right? The defense got better. They regressed at quarterback. So late in the year, the offense really regressed because of some of the decisions that got made at quarterback. To me, you couldn't bring Zach Wilson back after he threw his defense under the bus against the Patriots when he threw for 77 yards and said, I don't feel like I let the defense down. You lost half the team right there. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. You can't have from your quarterback. Take responsibility. Well, it was ridiculous. I agree. But again, growing pains. Every team has them. Every team's going to have these types of issues. But look, as far as I'm concerned, there's two things probably that have kept the Jets from being where the Giants are right now. Because they've had really good drafts. The last two drafts have been really good. Joe Douglas has done a very good job. Again, Zach Wilson could be a mistake. He'll probably play good quarterback somewhere else. He won't make it in New York. But he's had good drafts otherwise. Interesting story, by the way, about Elijah Moore, who was their second round or late first round pick 2 years ago at wide receiver, and played really well in his rookie year and regressed this year. Had some words with LaFleur, and then kind of disappeared from the offense. He's going to be a key. He needs to get his head on straight, and we'll see what happens there. But the Jets have done a good job. So to me, where the difference between them and the Giants is the quarterback and the head coach. Now, Salah's got to continue to improve. He was better this year than he was last year, but they mishandled the quarterback situation again. They didn't have a strong quarterback coach in there to mentor Zach Wilson or Mike White for that matter. Don't tell me it's Joe Flacco. That's not his job. You need a strong quarterback coach. Good teams who have grown quarterbacks have had good mentors for them. Strong offensive coordinators, strong quarterback coaches. Same thing hurt Mac Jones in New England. Exactly the same thing to a lesser degree. He didn't stink as bad as Zach Wilson did for sure. But now the Patriots are going to rectify that. They're going to bring in a really experienced. Don't be shocked if it's not Bill O'Brien. Don't be shocked if it is Bill O'Brien. Several other guys, Keenan McCardle, the tight end coach, Caley, has already interviewed. They're bringing in Sean Jefferson, former Patriot wide receiver, to interview for the coordinator position. He's been the wide receiver coach for the Cardinals. McCardle has been the wide receiver coach for the Vikings. And I think whoever comes in as offensive coordinator, whether it's Bill O'Brien or one of these other guys, they'll bring in a really good quarterback coach, because that's what was missing. Matt Patricia and Joe Judge should not have been running the offense and mentoring the quarterback. Neither one of them. Judge needs to go back to special teams, but Patricia's already been demoted. Bill Belichick, for all his greatness, he's the GOAT. This year was not his best work, and he's admitted it. But one thing this team has excelled at during the 20 years that they were dominant was putting guys in a position to succeed. I'll get to your 20 comments here in a second, Carlos. Putting players in a position to succeed, and he turns around this year and he puts coaches in a position that they couldn't succeed. That was too big an ask. You can't just say good coaches can coach anything. Well, that's true to a point, but now when you got a quarterback in his second year at a very key point in his growth, you don't put an inexperienced guy at both offensive coordinator, or he's not the offensive coordinator, but calling the plays, and the quasi-quarterback coach, Joe Judge. You set back your quarterback when you didn't need to. Not to mention the ridiculous Bailey Zappi nonsense during the middle of the year. Bailey Zappi played well for a game and a half. Bailey Zappi might be a good quarterback in the NFL. Bailey Zappi might, in fact, get a chance to compete for this job next year. I don't know. But Bailey Zappi is not worth creating a quarterback controversy like Bill Belichick did himself, all by himself, in the Chicago game this year. Zach Wilson and LaFleur. LaFleur? I'm not sure what you mean there. Listen, I admit it. See, the difference between me and the Mad New Yorker here, as I think I pointed out to him on the show today, so I'm not saying something, and he's got a chance to respond here. The difference between us is Carlos can't admit when he's wrong. I do. I'm wrong a lot because I make a lot of bold statements and predictions. I don't feel like they're off the wall. But when I'm wrong, I tell you I'm wrong. I was wrong about Zach Wilson. I still think Zach Wilson will be a viable quarterback in the NFL that won't be in New York. I was wrong about the Yankees last year. I said they wouldn't make the playoffs. They were much better than I anticipated, but still the problems I thought would cause them not to make the playoffs were still a problem. They just got carried by Aaron Judge. And you did say that, Carlos. I'll give you credit. You know, I'm not, again, in my haste to say you don't admit you're wrong, and I do, I'll give you credit. You did say LaFleur was a mess and that Zach Wilson would be an issue. And his biggest issue is his lack of maturity. Grow up. Grow up. That's why you need a strong quarterback coach. You need somebody to grab that kid by the freaking face mask, which you can't do anymore, guys. Don't yank and scare a kid. Grab him by the face mask and say, what is wrong with you? Steveler's fine. Let me hang on a second. Getting ahead of me a little bit here. I kind of moved on to the Patriots a little bit without saying I was going there. I think there's a lot of guys on this team you keep. There's very few guys I'm going to jettison. Coaching-wise, you're not going to get rid of anybody except for the head coach. I'm sorry, the offensive coordinator. Yeah, well, look, you need a strong offensive coordinator. He's going to have to hire a veteran, I think. Nathaniel Hackett, is he the guy? I'm not sure, because remember, he succeeded with a very good veteran quarterback. Not sure if he's going to have that next year. It's either going to be Mike White. If it's not Mike White, who is it? To me, there's only a couple options. Who are you going to bring in here? Derek Carr? Jimmy G? You mentioned Tyler Heineke today. He might be available because it looks like Sam Howell's going to be the quarterback down there in Washington. Frank Reich would be a good guy. I think Frank Reich would be a great hire, actually, Carlos, for this position. It's a name that had slipped my mind. It's a good one. I think he's waiting to see if he gets a head coach offer. I don't think he is. I think he's going to need to rehabilitate a little bit. He's going to be a head coach again, probably in the NFL, because that's what we do. But he's an excellent quarterback mentor. If you hired a Frank Reich, you probably don't need a stronger quarterback coach because Frank's good at mentoring quarterbacks. He did it with Carson Wentz. You can say what you want about Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz played really good football when Frank Reich was there and the offensive coordinator and his mentor. He played really good football. It was his best football. And Nick Foles, when Wentz was hurt, let's not forget that. So Frank Reich's a good spot, in a good spot here. Back to the Patriots a little bit, just for a minute before I move on to the Knicks. And we're going on to the Knicks? I'll go on to the Knicks and the Nets, I think, and then we'll go to baseball a little bit. And then maybe a little college basketball around town. Patriots I already talked about. They already demoted, what was I going to say? Demoted Matt Patricia. They're looking for an OC. I already talked about all of that. Mac Jones likely is going to be the quarterback. They're going to have to make some tough decisions with some veterans too. They need to get a playmaker in there. Their best playmaker, they couldn't find a way to get involved in the offense last year. That was Kendrick Bourne. You saw the difference, the way this offense played when Kendrick Bourne got involved a few of the games late in the season. They got to fill some holes on the offensive line. Isaiah Wynn will probably be a cut, to name one. Maybe Jonnu Smith will be another guy that they move, get a contract out of here. It all depends on the dead cap space and all that stuff. Again, that's what these guys work out. And they need to potentially replace two of their veteran leaders. Devin McCourty, the leader of the defense for the last gazillion years. Surefire Hall of Famer, by the way, Devin McCourty at safety. And I'll be honest with you, I think you'll find out that Matthew Slater, who's going to retire after nearly 20 years with the Patriots as an offensive star, special teams star, will also get consideration for the Hall of Fame. But this is going to leave a leadership void on this team. They're two of the biggest leaders on this team and in the clubhouse. Let's move on to basketball, shall we? What time is it? Man, time flies when Carlos gets involved here. Just kidding, Carlos. Oh, where are we? NBA. Let's take a look at the Knicks and the Nets and how they've been doing recently. We've talked a lot about the Nets, how they got off to such a bad start, 1-5, and then Jacques Vaughn and this team really came back and played well. Well, now since we last chatted, they're on a 4-game losing streak, falling from second to fourth in the East. I still think this team is not deep enough. They've shown that they can't withstand missing Kevin Durant from the lineup because they don't go deep enough. There is nobody to carry the load other than him and Kyrie. And look at Kyrie for the last month has been a poster child of normalcy. Just the fact that I have to point it out tells you how abnormal he is. But Ben Simmons' refusal to shoot the basketball will sink this team. That and the lack of depth on the team. Unless Kevin Durant can play 95% of the games and all the playoff games, this team will not make it to the Eastern Conference Finals and may continue to drop through the standings if Durant misses significant time during the course of this year. I really believe that the Nets should get Ben Simmons some, a sports psychologist. He's got a phobia about shooting a basketball. Shoot it. My God. That said, they're 27-17 after that 1-5 start. So there's still if I can do my math, 26-12 under Jacques Vaughn, who's doing a great job with what he's had to work with here. Again, listen, Durant's a great player. Durant's still one of the top 5 players in the game when he's healthy. Kyrie, when his head's on straight, isn't a bad basketball player. People aren't giving him these huge contracts and talk about a max contract if he continues to play the way he is and not, needing a mental health break. I really feel bad. I don't like making these cracks, but people probably think I do, that I enjoy getting on Kyrie. And I joke about the flat earth nonsense, but there's something wrong and Kyrie needs some help. Great ball player. Get some help. And the Nets in general get the team some help because these guys are just not going to play enough games together. And even if they do, with Simmons' refusal to shoot the basketball, what are you going to do? The Knicks, it's funny. They play well. They've won 7 of their last 10, but every time I get here to a Friday to Let's Talk New York Sports, they've lost a couple in a row. But the Knicks now are at 20. They're 4 games over 500, which I think is their high water mark. I could be wrong there. But they lost their last couple to the Wizards. Bad loss there. Bad loss to the Raptors. Again, the defense falls apart. When the defense plays well, this team plays well. Randall's played really well. They do miss Mitchell Robinson right now. They don't have that rim protector. They don't have that rebounder, that offensive rebounder. This hurts the Knicks, in a lot of ways. And I think this team needs him back sooner or later. He's going to be out at least 3 weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Knicks do. Hartenstein maybe has got to pick it up a little bit and play better than he has since being acquired from the Clippers. But the Knicks, I think all in all, the way the Knicks are progressing is okay. They're finding the right groups of guys that can play together. I'll tell you what I think. I think what they're finding out also is the fact that they made a huge mistake, and that's signing Donovan Mitchell, not trading for him. This team would be dynamic. And I'm starting to think maybe I would have given up RJ Barrett. At the time, I would not have traded him. But now I'm thinking maybe I will. I would have. They need that type of guy who can just a go-to guy in the clutch. And Julius Randle's okay. But he'd be a better player with some of that scoring weight lifted off of him. But the odd part about the Knicks, again, 4 games over 500, they're 14-8 on the road. They had all their troubles, most of their troubles are at home. The world's most famous arena. Knicks have always had an advantage at home. Now they don't have any advantage at all. Hopefully they get it together. We'll move on to a little bit of baseball. Talk about the Yankees here for a second. Yankee news. Aaron Boone announced this week that indeed there will be a battle for shortstop between Peraza, who's probably going to go into camp the favorite, I would think. Yankees like guys who at least completed an entire year at their next level, let's say. So has only played 21 games, 20 plus games at the AAA level. Played well there, though. And he's going to get a good look in the spring. And they're also going to look at Kiner Falefa. There's no way Kiner Falefa is going to be the starting shortstop for the Yankees next year after he really withered down the stretch. As soon as again, New York's not an easy place to play. We keep talking about that, right? As soon as the press started to get on him, his game just deteriorated badly. They're still looking for a left fielder. Still no luck there. Still talking about Brian Reynolds, but that's not going to happen. Not with what the Pirates are looking for, a Juan Soto type deal. That's not going to happen. I think Jackson Profar is probably a decent bet to come in here. The Yankees really love Varsho, who's went to the Blue Jays from the Diamondbacks. I've talked about that a couple of times. So I'm not really sure what the end game is going to be here. It's either going to be Profar or Reynolds. Maybe they cave. One side or the other caves, or they come to some kind of agreement. But left field, shortstop, third base, two places the Yankees have to get better. The good news is in the preamble to spring training and camps opening, DJ LeMahieu's been working out in Florida and looks to be healthy. It looks like his toe is healed. Now, he's been breaking down a lot the last couple of years. He had the I want to say it was a sports hernia, hiatal hernia 2 years ago, and then last year he had the toe issue and some other stuff. Now, and he's not a young whippersnapper. So he's probably going to be the third baseman if he's healthy. They still haven't found a way to dump Donaldson. I would just eat his contract. He can't be on this team next year or this coming year. Frankie Montas is out for at least a month. He's got shoulder inflammation, which he suffered with all last year, or the end of last year. Yankees use that as their explanation of why he was so bad after they acquired him. Makes me wonder if we didn't get the medicals on these guys, because he pitched bad from the minute he got here. So you'll likely see Clark Schmidt and Herman fill in that fifth spot for the first month or better of the season. And I'm worried about Montas's makeup and being able to pitch in New York anyway. Chapman, bye-bye. He's gone. He signs with the Royals. Good for that. Gary Sanchez still out there looking for a job. Just a little Yankee-related news. What else? The Yankees trying to avoid arbitration with Gleyber Torres. This team is not perfect still. Andrew Benintendi would have looked really good in left field with Bader and Judge. I keep saying it. I hope the Yankees don't have to play Cabrera full-time in left field or anything close to full-time, because I like him moving around the field. But the Yankees have had a good offseason. They had to re-sign Judge. They had to re-sign Rizzo. They got those two things done. They needed a pitcher. Not sure about Rendon. I hope I'm wrong there. Not sure I like his makeup for pitching in New York. But again, I'm not afraid to tell you I'm wrong when I'm wrong. I'm telling you, you won't lose this tape. I'm not Mike Francesa from The Fan, who would make predictions and the tapes would disappear. When I'm wrong, you'll hear it. Mets. I think the Mets actually come out a winner with this whole Carlos Correa thing, because Eduardo Escobar played really good defense and really picked it up offensively the second half of the season. I think it took him some time to get acclimated in New York and his new team and a new league. He played really well, and I think they're going to be better off at least in the short term, with him playing third base rather than Correa. Plus, they'll have money. Well, theoretically, they'll have money. They're already one of the only 6 teams got hit with a luxury tax this year. The Yankees and the Mets were 2 of them. But I think they did a really good job, and I think this team will be in good shape heading into the spring training coming up here in just a few weeks. Tommy Pham, I think, was a decent signing. Not a big batting average last year. Hit 230 something, but he's got some pop yet, a little bit of speed. He's going to be that right-handed DH, which, by the way, he can't do any worse than the right-handed DHs did this past year. And how am I so old? I know I'm going to be 63 this year, and I know I probably look like I'm 83, but I'll be 63 this year in just a few months. Tommy Pham, I remember Tommy Pham was a young phenom, and he's 34 years old. How does this happen? Yikes, right? So, anyway. And the Mets still have, by the way, they may not be done because they do have Adam Duvall on their radar, who was hurt a lot of last year with the Braves, but the year before, I believe he won a Gold Glove in the outfield. He was one of the guys that the Braves brought in, along with George Soler, that really helped lead them to the World Series championship. I believe he won a Gold Glove that year, and he hit 30-plus home runs. He'd be a decent addition to this Mets outfield and DH slot as well. Bringing in Pham, maybe that precludes that from happening. But the Mets aren't going to, if it's about money, that's not going to stop them. Now, if it's about, roster positions, that might be something different. We'll see. Anything else going on in the world of the Mets that I want to talk about? Not really. Let's look around men's basketball, college basketball. I like to slip in some college basketball. In the fall, I tried to fit in a little bit of college football, but it was hard because Syracuse by that time was, had lost their 6-game winning streak and actually went on a 6-game losing streak. And Rutgers is Rutgers; they stink. But we can do it with basketball a little bit better. So we're going to jump around with some of the local teams. And when I say local, we'll also include UConn in that mix. The New Jersey teams, obviously. So looking around at some of the different conferences, we'll look at first at a couple local teams. We do look at Albany State and Siena up here, upstate, definitely as part of the teams that we look at. Albany State having a horrible year. They've had, before they fired Coach Brown, who'd been there for 2 decades, they'd had some really good seasons. They weren't great. They weren't great year in and year out, but they had a couple of trips to the NCAA and did not embarrass themselves. Since they brought in their current coach, whose name is escaping me at the moment, gosh, I apologize. Hang on here. Coach Killings, right? He's already getting sued for the way he treated a player. And by the way, I'm not saying he did anything wrong in this situation, because coaches are always now getting called out for mistreating players because they yelled at them or, maybe gave him grabbed them by the shoulders. And we can't do that because it's offensive. God help me. What kind of country have I come into now? Anyway, they're playing horrible basketball. They have since he got there. He came here as an assistant for Marquette, and it's not working out. A10, more bad play from, I shouldn't say that, but St. Bonaventure's starting to get together a little bit. They're 4-2 now. St. Bonaventure's out west, if you don't know, out near, not quite to Buffalo, but out in that area. 10-9 overall. Again, they're going to have to win this league to get into the tournament, but playing better ball than they played earlier in the year. Speaking of playing better ball, Syracuse is 5-3 now in the ACC. 9-3. What are they? Sorry. Where are they? 12-7 overall. Starting to play better ball. They lost to Colgate at home for a second time in 2 years. And since then, they played better ball, but just not enough talent on this Syracuse team. Again, love Joe Girardi. He's a local product here out of Glens Falls, an hour up the road from me, up the Northway. And but he can't be your number one guy, right? I mean, he's a nice player, nice shooter, good guard. Can't be the number one player in a Power 5 conference lineup. Can't be. Just can't be. Boston College, because we're sticking a little bit, with the region, not playing well at all. 2-6 in the league, 8-11. The Big East, the resurgent Big East these last few years, now has 4 teams in the top 25. Marquette has made a debut, playing really good, by the way. Of the local teams, UConn has had a tough week, lost 4 of the last 5 after moving up to number 2 in the country. Danny Hurley missed a game here earlier this week with COVID. Danny Hurley's done a great job here. UConn's going to be a factor come tournament time. And I would count them as one of the teams with a chance to win the national championship. St. John's, after a horrible start in league play, has battled back to 3-5 after winning a couple in a row, including a game last weekend at UConn. Trying to battle back. They're going to have a tough time making a tournament without a really strong finish and a good showing in the Big East tournament. We'll start talking tournament here pretty soon. Where else are we going here? Big Ten, you got Rutgers playing really good basketball out there. 5-10, moved into the top 25 themselves this year. 2 teams in the top 25 out of the Big Ten, by the way. Tyler D and I talked about this the other night. Not a good sign for the Big Ten. 13-6 overall for Rutgers. Rutgers is a team that I'd watch out for come tournament time. They're a veteran squad. They're well coached. Keep an eye out for that team come tournament time. They could be a sleeper in the Big Ten tournament, and if they get into the NCAA, they could do some damage. Who else do we have we want to talk about? Cornell. We can't really. Cornell's 4-1, 14-4 in the Ivy League. They've got a chance. Them and Princeton are the 2 favorites. Cornell has had some good teams and not embarrassed themselves in the tournament when they've gotten there through the years. In the MAC, the other local team I like to talk about, Siena, 6-1 in the MAC. Everybody talks about Iona, which is, again, a New York City, New Rochelle, Westchester County team. 5-2 under Rick Pitino in the league. Siena holds that 1-game lead. Siena's 12-6. They're both 12-6 overall. Big game next Friday, a week from today, here in Albany. Iona will come up to play the Siena Saints, and I hope to get to the second half of that game. I've got to get out to a dinner, but I hope to maybe go over there for the second half of that game. St. Peter's, who made a great run last year in the NCAA tournament, getting to the Elite Eight, really struggling in the MAC this year. 2-7, 7-11 overall. They lost pretty much their whole core. Shasheen Holloway, their great coach, went to Seton Hall, who's rebounded a little bit. They got off to an awful start in the Big East. I didn't talk about them. They've gotten off to a bad start in the Big East and gotten it back together. And they may make themselves a factor before it's all over. But Marquise Lee left Butch Lee's son. He left to go to a different school. Really nothing left of the core of what brought that team to the Elite Eight last year, and it's kind of a shame. We're running out of time here. Let's see. I think that's probably all we probably really usually talk about on you got the Patriot League. Colgate's leading there. I talked about them beating Syracuse for the second time in a row at home, second year in a row at home. Colgate's 7-0 in the Patriot League and leading the way. Army, who we love to chat about in football, actually playing pretty good basketball this year, 5-2 and 11-9 overall. So they'll battle their way, potentially those 2 teams for an NCAA berth. Interesting to see the Army Black Knights get into the NCAA tournament. Wouldn't that be fun? Guys, we've had a lot of fun here today. I appreciate everybody coming in. Dan Harris, glad to see you stop in and say hi and make a comment. Carlos, always love having you in. Obviously, this is the way you and I hooked up and became the duo in the Are You Serious show is your comments during these shows. And you continue to be provocative. And I know that the Let's Talk Sports crowd loves you, and so do all the hosts. So great job. And, it's all in good fun when when we joke around. So, actually, I'm serious, but it's in fun. I don't mean anything malicious. I hope you know that. I think you know that. And also, anybody else that was with us, we appreciate you being with us today as well. We'll be back next week with another edition of Let's Talk New York Sports. Keith Engle, you have a great weekend. Enjoy those games this weekend. Giant fans, Daniel Jones is your guy today, tomorrow, and for the foreseeable future. And your future looks bright coming from a guy who can't stay in your team. Keith Engle for Let's Talk Sports. Have a great, great weekend.